so that my perfectly toned body can stop zombies from stealing our spotlight.
Disney Zombies is literally what I would show that little girl who I met in Walmart when I was 13 and pointed at me and said, "Look, mommy, that man is made of chocolate." This is a real thing that happened to me, and I wish that girl nothing but the best. You know, given my demographic, it's entirely possible that she's watching this video, and if you are, hello little girl, happy to be the first black person you ever met. But why would I show Little Miss Oblivious Disney Zombies is probably the question you're finding yourself asking right now. There's actually no reason for that, and I most certainly wouldn't do that. Why would I show a 6-year-old girl a Disney movie I don't even like? Are you crazy? So why did I say all of this? Simple. I just needed a segue into the video. Disney Zombies is a 2018 musical film that released on the Disney Channel in the middle of February 2018. Seriously? This seems right up the alley for something that Disney would do during their like Spooktober event or whatever the hell they called it in 2017. Because this movie wasn't ever released in theaters, no budget was ever officially released, and obviously didn't have a box office either, but it must have done well because they made 2 more of these things, one of which last year. I was aware it got a sequel because they announced it like a couple months before I grew the up and stopped watching cable television, but they put a 3rd one of these out on Disney Plus, and that indeed did come as a shock to me. Apparently, Disney Zombies' original release window had amassed 13 million total viewers, with 2.46 million of those viewers being from its original premiere, which is actually quite a good amount. For perspective, if you sold a $10 movie ticket for each of those views, and yes, I'm aware that movie tickets are more expensive, but kids' tickets are cheaper, that's easily $24 million. That's also not even accounting for the fact that a parent would have had to go see this movie with their kid, and those tickets are more expensive. For a Disney movie, is that a lot of money to make? Hell no. Not for a box office release, but I'm just giving perspective here. And over its full release, it probably would have made over $130 million, and it's safe to assume the budget for this movie is about $5 million or under, so it's very safe to say that they definitely made their money back on this project. The movie released to seemingly average to positive reviews that mainly pointed out that it was a good kids film, but I'm 20 and I hate when people enjoy things. So I'm gonna watch this movie for myself and let them know if their opinion is correct, if they're just following the liberal agenda with their stupid TV movie about equal rights and fair treatment for minorities. Repulsive leftist trash like that. The movie begins with some quite honestly well-stylized zombie lore. The zombies were created when some random worker spilled lime juice, which caused an explosion at a chemical factory. Yes, you heard that right, one guy spilling a lime soda caused the zombie apocalypse. And that subsequently caused 50 years of racism and bigotry. To be fair, in the real world, racism exists without the existence of lime soda. So take that as you will. You would think this instance took place in 2016 because the solution to the problem was to build a wall. But nope, this happened sometime in the 1900s, the 1960s to be exact. But yes, they did build a wall to separate the zombies from the normal people. That time I'm not even exaggerating to make a joke about racism. That's literally what the movie says. I do want to say that before we move on, the intro sequence is actually really well done and nicely stylized, all jokes aside. It looks like a panel of The Walking Dead, which I'm pretty sure they did on purpose. Moving on, we're introduced to our first main character, Zed. Yup, the first zombie character we meet in this movie has a Z in his first name. Real creative, guys. Zed is a pretty charismatic guy, and I do want to say that his actor, Milo Manheim, does a great job portraying him. I like how expressive he is, but it feels like an odd mix between TikTok acting and the theater kid who didn't get a grade high enough to make it to advanced drama class. This scene does, however, establish a few things. Firstly, zombies are now stable thanks to the Z-bands that deliver soothing electromagnetic pulses to get rid of those pesky flesh-eating urges. And secondly, they're required to wear government-issued coveralls. Why, you ask? Shut up, the movie says. And thirdly, they do have a curfew, though it's not stated exactly when that is. And lastly, this is the first day since the zombie outbreak that they get to attend Human High School, and Zed wants to join the Human football team. This is Addison, played by Meg Donnelly. She's the first human character we meet. She's a cheerleader at Seabrook High School, or at least her goal is to become one, because she seemingly has no other ambitions. But Addison isn't like other girls. She secretly has white hair that she covers with a wig because people at Seabrook hate anything that's different. I'm also not exaggerating that is a direct quote from the movie. So that's a little depressing, but then we go back to Zed to meet his family. First is Zed's younger sister, Zoe. She wants a dog, but they're not allowed to have dogs because they're afraid the zombies will eat the dogs. Then we meet Zed's dad, who is serving canned brains for breakfast. Not to be a dick, but doesn't serving canned brains seem to be counterintuitive for both sides? Firstly, if you're a zombie and you want people to like you, why would you go out of your way to eat brains and any capacity. You couldn't even make the argument that it's like zombie culture because it requires the murder of a human to eat a brain. And who is manufacturing this? My money personally would be on the humans, but why would they want to perpetuate this idea? Is brains the only thing that humans think zombies eat? That's like if Joe Biden opened up a KFC in the middle of Compton because he thought that's what the people there liked. That aside, the dad is a nice character, but he does have his reservations about his son playing football. He's worried because he knows humans don't like zombies, but Zed says it's different because he's one of the good ones. But then we cut back to Addison, where her parents talk about more important things, like her mom running for mayor, and how her reputation for mayor is entirely dependent on whether or not her daughter is a good cheerleader. But she's got it in the bag. All she needs to do is keep that disgusting white hair covered up by her beautiful and perfect blonde hair. This is where we get the first song that really exemplifies the dichotomies between the two communities. One is this beautiful, vibrant, bright colored community with perfectly cut lawns and where everyone drives smart cars and ride bikes. And the other is a filthy, imperfect community where there's dust and mold everywhere. Oh, and the normal people sing and the colored people rap, but I'm sure you probably could have guessed that at this point. Also, I was moderately worried that they were just gonna whiteface the black people in 2018, but they're actually pretty tactful about them. They just make everyone gray, so even the white people are just gray. Here we're introduced to Eliza. There's no two ways about it, she's a revolutionary. And her whole thing is that she wants to fight the power. Oh, and then there's Bonzo. He only speaks zombie, which is a language where the first letter of every word begins with a Z and then they put a vowel after it. So I'm putting my money on it now, but someone is gonna say the word Zaza before this movie is over. We're introduced to Bucky in this song, the cheer captain. And in case you want to make a joke about how being a male cheerleader is gay, I implore you to save it for this guy. They finally dance their way to Seabrook High School and we see them go to the same school, but the two sides are separated into zombie and normal. Seriously, you could have just put human. You've already largely implied that zombies are no longer human anyway. Zed has the hots for Addison, but the more important part of the scene is that we learn that the zombie kids are constantly being policed. Bucky is racist, and also turns out to be Addison's cousin. And then we meet Bree, the most annoying character in this film in my opinion, but she's the only person who is self-aware, which is enough to make me like her. Zed isn't happy about being policed, but just because they're separate doesn't mean they can't be equal. Yeah, I should have seen this coming too. They're not allowed to leave the basement, and the principal is also, unsurprisingly, racist. Zed sneaks out to go to football tryouts and gets the zombie alarm pulled on him. At this point, everyone with an above average physique takes it upon themselves to go tackle him. Zed slips into a zombie safe room and Addison sees this and decides to go confront him alone because she's the only person in the school who isn't racist. Seriously, if zombie phobia, and yes, that is what it's referred to as in the movie, is such a prevalent issue, then who greenlit this? Not a single person seems on board with zombies being here, so whose idea was this to let this happen? After a brief conversation where they talk and flirt for a bit, she learns that they're not so different and he's a normal guy with thoughts and feelings and ambitions. But then the lights turn on and she realizes he's black and she decks him in the face. The movie does kind of touch on the fact that this is mostly generational racism because she said her parents always told her that zombies are ugly, disgusting freaks, but after punching one in the face, she realizes sometimes they're pretty hot. Bucky comes to the rescue and then sanitizes his hands to get all those zombie germs off. And then they all make their way to cheer practice. Zed makes his way to football tryouts and wait a sec, the day just started. They literally walked inside, he leaves, and now they're at football tryouts. It's not like I went to high school for 4 years or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's not how football tryouts work. Even if football tryouts were on the very first day of the year, they certainly wouldn't be the first thing that happens in the day. We then meet the coach. He's based as After immediately saying the football team sucks, he says everyone made the team.
Except for the zombie.
He doesn't seem to have anything against zombies, but he does say verbatim that he is not a trailblazer. So stopping racial inequality isn't exactly on his to-do list. At cheer practice, we then meet the cheerleading co-captains. Straight, bisexual, and gay. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of making jokes like, haha, enjoying such and such hobby is gay when it comes to things like dance or cheerleading, but I've never seen a straight man this comfortable with stretching another guy out like this. And no, that's not how I intended for that sentence to come out, but I said it and I'm owning it now. This is also the next musical number. There's nothing really worth mentioning here, but I do want to say the music in this movie isn't that bad, but it feels like the lip syncing is a little more obvious than it should be. I'm also quite impressed by the choreography. It's a little basic, yeah, but nothing I can't say doesn't require talent to perform. But although Brie says she doesn't have what it takes to be a cheerleader, nothing has ever gotten between black people and getting in the rhythm, so she does go right back to dancing anyway. And unsurprisingly to anyone, Addison does get on the team and begs for them to let Brie join. You know, if this wasn't a movie where the main thing is that zombies are the most marginalized group in the world, I'd make a joke here about a black person only getting an opportunity because a white person vouched for them. But instead, I'm gonna say I don't get the point of this because Brie counted herself out. Addison should have just left it be. Bucky then gives a speech about how cheer is being threatened by the zombers being present in the high school. But no zombies even tried out for the team. This feels oddly reminiscent of that scene in season 2 of The Boys when Stormfront teaches Ryan about white genocide. Apparently the cheer initiation every year is to pull up on a hoe, so Bucky tells Addison and Brie that to join the team, they both have to egg a zombie house to remind them of their place. But because phobia is part of the name zombie phobia, they get scared off by a zombie asking if they need help and drive away. This scene serves as a wake-up call for Addison, realizing that zombies are always harassed like this. But all the students are already aware of the fact that they are 1, held in a basement, and 2, constantly policed. I feel like that would get the spiderweb covered cogs in your brain a turning, no? Addison lets Bucky know that racism is bad, and he just basically says, lol, okay fam, and then he immediately leaves. Addison apologizes for last night and invites the group of zombies to go to the pep rally. But what's funny to me is that Eliza says they need to open a window because it reeks of human in the basement. To me, that's just funny because I can hardly imagine any of these people smell worse than the sales floor of a JCPenney. But the zombies do, albeit begrudgingly, go to the pep rally. I don't actually have a joke here, this part's just funny. Like, come on, we here at HiKeiLoKei Productions at least enjoy the things we make satirical commentaries about. After about 20 seconds of cheering and everyone having a genuinely good time, Bucky says he's had enough and busts out the spirit sticks, which are sparklers, which are fire, and zombies hate fire. Almost as much as white people hate adhering to building regulations, because there is no way it is legal to light these things inside. Bonzo then promptly wigs the f*** out and knocks over Zed, which messes with his Z-band. This seemingly gives Zed old man strength, and he shoves the defensive lineman on the football team out of the way and catches Addison with grace and style. This stunt lands Zed a spot on the football team, which he hopes to use to finally get a life. But Zed says to agree he will need full integration for all zombies. Listen, I agree that he's doing a good thing and the right thing here, but he is seriously overestimating the amount of pull that he has in this negotiation. Like, bro, you got your heart in the right place, but start slow. Surprisingly though, the principal says that for a start, they'll integrate the cafe, and if he can carry the football team to victory, they'll get full integration. Bucky overhears this and is unsurprisingly not happy about it. None of the normal students are happy about this, but that's not surprising because they're literally racist. Their food is still straight from the chum bucket and their conditions aren't that ideal, but they're just happy to have anything. Addison also now fully admits that she is in love with Zed. That was fast. But Brie is based and she doesn't really care. She is worried of the consequences and probable heartbreak, but she is accepting of their interracial marriage. Because Addison isn't actually a bigot, she tries to be nice to the zombies and Bonzo gives her some art made from an apple. Not technically important, but I just think it's sweet, and Bonzo is a generally underutilized and underappreciated character in this film. After being pulled away by the bitch brigade, they tell Addison not to talk to the zombies. They also say that she is lopsided, has an overbite, and wears corrective lenses. The trifecta of ugliness, I guess. But Addison insists that she's not different, and they leave her alone. Zed sees this, and being the alpha Chad he is, goes to cheer her up. After talking more about racial injustice, she admits to being different. Also, I didn't really think about this earlier, but the hair that's supposed to be a wig does indeed go into her scalp. So I will be looking for a random hair change when she inevitably takes off her wig in front of a large gathering of people during the third act climax. After running away when they hear people coming, they go back to the zombie free zone from earlier. There's a lot less stuff in here than earlier, and they do specify specifically that it is the same room. They then sing a musical number where they basically just sing about how they're polar opposites with a forbidden love. I can't bash the songs in this movie outside of just how cheesy they are, but they're not bad. Well sung and for the most part well written, but it is a Disney movie at the end of the day, so it's not like it's gonna be a radio hit or anything. I will say, however, that it is very obvious that the sound effects were done in post-production because they are so loud during the songs, and it is just off-putting. It's like that one page on TikTok that posts songs, but without the music playing, so it's just the sound of singing and people's feet shuffling. Ultimately, it's a cute song that ties directly into what's happening, so I'm fine with this. We cut to Zed's first football game, and his team gives the other team the right to tackle Zed just because he's a zombie. Which, you know what, I'm with them on this one, because Zed will not shut up during this game. After losing for a bit, they go to timeout, and we get more of the coach being funny, which I appreciate. As much as I love the coach, he is pretty inept though. He didn't even realize the fact that the team wasn't blocking for Zed until Zed straight up said it to the coach's face. Zed decides to hack his Z-band. Well, technically the term they use is jailbreaking it, yes, like a cell phone. Eliza then hacks his Z-band and gives him the direct instruction to never swipe right on his Z-band, only to the left, or it will corrupt the software. That is one hell of a design flaw, genuinely on par with the sleep pods in Passengers. If you know exactly what is causing a problem, then just fix it. Regardless, it's pretty straightforward here and not much of a jump that this is a metaphor for using performance-enhancing drugs. So yeah, no shit. The guy who's hopped up on steroids and zombie quaaludes ends up winning the game for his team, and his reward is his first piece of ass. An undisclosed amount of time has passed and racism has finally been destroyed. The whole school loves him and the football team. What's weird about this is the way they talk about zombies like they're not even around. A girl literally says, "Can you believe these zombies are so cool?" This is exactly what it felt like to be the first black sprinter on my middle school track team. But acting like they're special is better than acting like they're not around, I guess. These people do, however, need to step away from Eliza though, because she's quite literally mine. Kylie Russell, please email me, my inbox is wide open. Bucky is pissed by all this racial equality and tells Addison she needs to pick a side, either cheerleader or zombie. And Addison actually pretty easily chooses cheerleader. This is because being mixed isn't an option for her yet. Bucky then makes it his personal mission for them to never win another football game. So much for that because they literally win every game in the entire season, which of course upsets Bucky. The people have warmed up to the zombies so much that they've begun to wear their fashion. You know, those government issue coveralls that they're worn to demean them and mark them as separate from humans? Yeah, those government issue coveralls. But wow, this is weird. Like, they are really dick riding the out of these zombies. At the next game though, Bonzo delivers a message to Addison to meet up with Zed at the border. She meets up with Zed, who then takes her to downtown Detroit. He also then explains to her what he has to do to his Z-band in order to win games. Addison says she knows how that feels. I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody knows how it feels to have to take steroids in order to win football games so people won't be racist anymore. He takes Addison to what is essentially a factory turned nightclub. They also do another musical number. This one is just a mix of electric house and rap music with some riveting and creative lyrics. Let me just read you a part of this real quick. I'm in Zombieland. You're in Zombieland. We're in Zombieland. Watch me do it like Bam. And then I'm in Zombieland. You're in Zombieland. We're in Zombieland. Watch me do it like Bam. Revolutionary lyricism, guys. It seriously took 5 writers to come up with that. As far as the scene itself, it's probably the most creative in the film in my opinion. Mostly in the set design, but sound design is also the most creative too. Say what you want about the movie, but you can't deny this is some pretty creative choreography. The song ends and the Z-band seems to be taking a physical toll on Zed's body, but he brushes it off because he feels like he has a moral obligation to do this. Which, in all seriousness, he kinda does at this point. Addison meets Zoe and talks to her about her hopes and dreams, and Eliza walks in and is pretty clearly upset by her present. But Addison tells her that she's learning that zombies are people too. Yeah, because after you put a Z-band on them, the only thing that is different about them is literally their skin color. Addison compliments Zoe.
You're smart, cool, pretty.
But it doesn't matter because I was thinking all of those things first, and I deserve her more. Seriously, my inbox is empty right now. Please. Zed finds Zoe, and he was unknowing of the fact that she is there. This then starts the most cringe-inducing dialogue in the entire film.
Who's a good boy?
Huh?
Me.
Good boy, good boy.
Seriously, I know he's just playing with his little sister, but that's just straight up cringy as fuck. But the scene ends and Eliza appreciates Addison now. Zed takes Addison to a romantically lit roof where they sing more about how forbidden their love is. In case you think there's a rehash of the scene that we got earlier in the zombie safe room, you'd be correct. This is literally just another rendition of the song titled Someday that played earlier in the film, except this one is a ballad version. Zed tells Addison she's beautiful, even with that disgusting white hair, and then the ops show up, so he uses his African-American speed to evade arrest. If you're curious as to why they show up, it's the curfew that I mentioned earlier. I don't know why they have a curfew if they're literally in a separate part of town, but racism has no bounds. Seriously, it has no bounds. They literally built a border between them and they still find it necessary to cross it every night just to tell them to go to bed. Addison's parents find out that she left and they want to meet the boys she snuck out with. Why Addison doesn't immediately say that it's the only zombie in town that everybody likes is unclear, but like everything else in American society, the answer is probably racism. Eliza insists that Zed needs to stop hacking his Z-band, and the Spectrum Squad over here overhears all of this, and they plan to use this information at a later date to breed more hate. They will get nothing in return for this behavior, ruin the football team, and send more zombies back to their life in the ghetto. But yeah, sure, go ahead, I'm sure you'll get your kicks out of this. I don't have any commentary for this in particular, but Bucky does do this.
So that my perfectly toned body.
The cheer squad says they now know how to stop Zed. The Spectrum squad distracts Eliza so they can steal her computer, but they can't get in because there's a firewall. You know, you literally could have just said password. There's no reason to overcomplicate this. Like, not to be rude, but it's pretty obvious to anyone that none of these guys are pro hackers. Lucky for them, Zed does the one thing he wasn't supposed to do with the Z-brand and swipes right. The reason for this is no risk, no reward. This corrupts the software and lets the cheer squad back into Eliza's computer. But what's annoying is that bisexual literally says verbatim, something happened. The software is corrupted. There is no way she would have known the software is corrupted unless it said it right on the screen. She doesn't even know what racial intolerance is. After messing with the Z-band, Zed is somehow cured of his zombiness. I have absolutely zero clue how this worked, but I'm not a scientist and I'm not even gonna bother with this one. Zed takes Addison on their first real date, even though his Z-band is still pretty messed up. Addison is happy to have him there, but not happy about the fact that he has to live a double life. But Zed pulls a no you and points at the fact that she literally looks like a real world version of Elsa without her wig, and that she needs to keep her mouth shut. Also, Addison is technically not wrong in saying this, but she says we're changing ourselves, but what needs to change is everybody else. The fact that you let that come out of your mouth without feeling a little entitled is kinda crazy. Addison begins to cheer for changes, does some zombie-based cheerleading, but Bucky kicks her off the team for it. I mean, like, she could just keep cheering anyway. Like, who's really gonna stop her? It's not a crime. Straight manages to hack into Zed's Z-band and does nothing. Like, he just has to play football like a normal guy, and that's literally all. Because the hardest part of being different is playing on an even field. But after letting him win for some reason, they turn things up a notch and turn his band off completely. They took away his normal pills, if you will. They end up doing the same thing to Eliza, and no! Bonzo! And I'd like to point out that yes, Bucky's plan does basically boil down to committing psychological warfare and domestic terrorism. He also does not have a way to stop them, so they just have to run away. People really seem to have no idea where to run because the Spectrum squad runs directly into Bonzo and Eliza, and Bucky's dumbass runs straight under the bleachers, because bleachers are notoriously popular for having the best secret exits. Zed fights the urge to give in to his brain-eating desires, but a police officer stops him, but not before Bucky witnesses his struggle though. Also, Addison says, "Why are you taking him?" Like, girl, put your thinking cap on for 1 second. As far as everyone around is concerned, he just tried to eat Bucky. Also, I'd hate to be the one to say it, but maybe people would like zombies more if you didn't dress them in prison attire literally everywhere they go. But just like that, months of progress are undone in the same time that it took me to save 15% or more on car insurance. Addison gives a speech to the crowd about how this is actually all their fault, and they take a little inspiration from Steven Universe here, and instead of actually doing anything, she decides to start singing. Rebecca Sugar is shaking in her boots right now. This entire song is really weird. Addison just sings on the football field and has like 46 flashbacks from earlier in the movie, and then she talks about how much oppression she's witnessed. We also get a Bucky duet, and I'd hate to say it, but he carries this song. Or at least the part of this song, because he has 3 lines and that's literally it. But Addison decides enough is enough, and she takes off her wig. Hey, wait a second. So I will be looking for a random hair change when she inevitably takes off her wig in front of a large gathering of people during the third act climax. I want you to know that I didn't actually remember if that happened or not. It was just painfully obvious that that was the direction that this movie was going. But they do cut the frame where she takes off the wig, so it's very clear they swapped wigs in between shots. Not to be that guy. You know what, this is the 3rd time in the video I've said this at this point, so I'm gonna be that guy. But isn't it slightly concerning that the massive wave of change is being sparked by someone who isn't even a zombie? This is like if every black civil rights activist had a funny white sidekick. I guess it doesn't matter though, because it doesn't elicit change the way she was hoping for, and they all boo her. Zed and the gang apparently came from zombie detainment, but we don't actually see it, presumably because they spent their entire budget on screen effects for that last song. Eliza says it's ridiculous that the Spectrum squad stole her hacked her bracelet, and then she got in trouble for it. And while I agree with parts of that, you have to remember that she was the one that made the software to hack into the bands and then took advantage of it to win football games. I'm not saying Eliza is the one who unleashed zombies onto the crowd, but I am saying she's not right either. We cut to a seemingly unchanged Bucky who is cutting everyone from the team who isn't anti-zombie, which, given the last scene, how is this anyone? Literally everyone turned on them in the literal last scene that just happened. They're going to send all the zombies back to zombie-only school, but not before Zed and Bonzo find a plan that Eliza made to bomb the cheerleading championship. What the actual hell? This line is just funny to me.
You could say they've been cheertastic.
Well, you could say that. I wouldn't, because it's a made-up word, so.
I appreciate this style of comedy. I'm sure you realized it because this video is like 30 minutes of that. Addison sees that Zed and Bonzo are there at the championship and goes to chase after Zed, a plan that is supported by the Black Queen that is Bree. She does nothing in this movie and I love her for it. Seriously, I like her, but her whole thing is that she's the only other named person in this movie who doesn't hate zombies. This would be impactful if she had more than 4 minutes of screen time. Zed finds Eliza and says, no, put that away. Yeah, because asking nicely would have stopped every single oppressed activist and protester in their tracks. That's like saying this isn't you to someone who is about to kill you. Like, bro, she is way beyond pretty please at this point. Zed says that Eliza shouldn't go through with her plan because it just makes them look like the monsters that the people already fear they are. But Addison agrees that they should blow up the building, along with everybody else alive inside. Racism doesn't change until you deep fry the racists. But Zed says that Addison needs to change the world through cheer, not sabotage. Can you give me an S? Can you give me a T? Can you give me a, never mind, it's stupid. Can you give me a stupid? I was gonna spell stupid, because this is stupid. The Seabook Shrimps get on stage and they end up performing worse than my PC trying to run a Minecraft shader. But Zoe gets on stage and begins to cheer the cheerleaders on. But she quickly receives the same reception as the Seabrook team.
Get off the stage, zombie!
Because racism is the only ride that doesn't have an age or height requirement. This gives motivation to everyone to win the day with the cheer championship. Also, they let this go on for a really long time. Literally nothing is happening here on this stage, and the officials are just okay with it. They then let them have enough time to put together a whole musical number because they wouldn't want to be unfair to the zombies, would they? Also, I'd like to point out that this is just another rendition of the song Fired Up, which is the song that plays earlier from the first day of school. Zoe goes and motivates Bucky to also get back on stage. This is a reference to Cassie telling MODOK to not be a dick in Ant-Man Quantumania. Also, the two cutest people in this film get a romance shoehorned in at the end of the film for seemingly no reason, but I can't complain because I actually like them. Addison then proclaims her love to Zed in zombie language and they kiss. And, I'm sorry. Oh, they don't. My bad. Sorry. It just seemed like the natural conclusion for a Disney Channel original movie to me. I'm sorry, I got a little hasty there. They didn't end up winning the cheer championship, which is surprising to me. Not because I need the good guys to always win in the end, but are you serious? This shit was much more interesting than anything any of the other teams did, which we only saw one other team, by the way. But they did throw a big multicultural block parade, where the zombies share all their zombie music and dances with the humans. This song is also another rendition of Bam, the song from earlier with the lyrical genius. So wait a second, there are only 8 songs in this film, thank God, and only 3 of them, that's nearly 38% of the songs in this film, are just different versions of other songs that were already in the film. And the Bam rendition uses the same track just with more vocals. Regardless, they have their little song and dance. Zed and Allison share a kiss. Nope, I'm sorry. They just hug, make an awkward face to the camera, and wave to the audience, and the movie ends. Seriously, they don't kiss. They just said I love you. No? Okay, I'm sorry. This movie has the most thinly veiled message ever, but I think it does it in a way where the kids will get it without most of the problematic implications. Kids are just gonna see everyone is equal and should be treated as such. But this movie gets really odd when you look a little deeper into it. I mean, the beginning of this movie starts out with a perfect world where all of the families are nuclear and the zombies show up. So they separate the communities with a wall, and say what you want about reaching, but remember that part of the movie where they literally separate the zombie students from the normal kids with a fence. It is not a huge jump that this will put imagery from things such as the Little Rock 9 in your head if you are my age or older. I watched this when I was 15, and that was my first thought. There is also no two ways about it, but zombies literally live in the ghetto. This is the definition of a ghetto. a poor area with minority groups. They may be in bad conditions, but it's fine because they've got high spirits, and they make their clothes into swag, and they paint their houses and furniture fun colors and listen to rap music. Like seriously, you can say I'm reaching, but I didn't have to reach that far. I mean, the main character of this film stops racism by being black and playing football. It is far from a reach to say that this is one large metaphor for racism, and it is honestly concerning to watch. And I mentioned this earlier, but the fact that the movie ends up having a white savior at the end of it. Like, I expected a plot twist where she was gonna be half zombie or something, and that may well happen in the sequel, but I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. Okay, so even worse, I googled it to further prove my point, but nope, she is part alien. I don't have the words or curiosity to delve into that right now, but we can all agree, whether or not you agree with me, that that is really far out of left field. But it is moderately concerning that the rich white girl who has white hair has gone through the same oppression as the zombies and is the girl who ends up saving the day. I didn't want to review this movie and talk so heavily about the implications of this movie, but damn, is it hard not to when it doesn't even seem to try and hide it from you. That aside for a moment, is this movie any good?
I mean, it's alright, like, overrated as f***, in my opinion. I mean,
my thoughts halfway through this film were, damn, this movie's kinda bland. And then when I finished the film, my thoughts were, damn, this movie's kinda bland and moderately concerning. Like, nothing interesting really happens. This movie isn't that funny, and the drama is so predictable that you know how this movie ends about a minute after Addison says she has white hair. The movie also calls itself a musical, but has a severe lack of music in my opinion. 5 original songs. The choreography of the dances is impressive, and I give credit for that. But the songs are so over auto-tuned at times, it's hard to enjoy pretty much any of them. The actors are good. I do think they all do a pretty good job. And then, like I said earlier, I do appreciate how energetic someone like Milo Manheim is when he portrays Zed. But the characters themselves are all just stereotypes, but surprisingly not racial stereotypes. Okay, maybe Addison is a racial stereotype, like the preppy white girl, but that's really it. I mean, you have jock, cheerleader girl, aggressive team captain, black best friend who has like 4 lines, dad, naive younger sister who ends up being important in the 3rd act climax, lovable idiot, 3 henchmen, one of whom is dumber than the other 2, racist principal, coach who doesn't believe in his own team, and all of the background characters who flip-flop between loving the zombies and hating them depending on what the movie needs. These characters are so clearly just that. Characters. The sets and design are okay, but it's pretty hard to f up pink-colored high school. The costumes are the same except for the zombies, which they did get pretty creative with. They really do have the exaggerated swagger of a zombie teen. The camera work and the direction are both middle of the line as well. Not bad, but I can't think of a single time the camera moved in a meaningful way. Even in the dances, they usually just pan the camera in any one of the 4 cardinal directions. The only real interesting part about this movie is the animation in the opening sequence, and that's like really it. I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10. I was actually going to give it a 7, but when I started writing all of this down, I realized how little this movie tries to be anything. The best parts of this movie are dancing, but even John Wick is an interesting movie when he's not shooting people in the head. This is actually a first for the channel, but this is going to be the first movie where the fun score is lower than the critical score, at a 4 out of 10. The reason for the fun score being so low is because I thought it would at least be fun to make fun of what the movie implied, but not only did it get boring to do that like 30 minutes in, but it's all the movie really offers. The comedy is sparse, the climax is predictable, and the songs are like 6 out of 10s on a good day. There just isn't anything that this film offers that hundreds, if not thousands of others don't. I wanted to have a good time laughing at and with this film, but it just didn't happen. I also don't like how disappointed I ended up feeling in the movie's message. I got the message that children were supposed to get. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated, and we're all equal. As an adult, I see the writers of this movie making some of the most wildly incompetent takes on race relations I have ever seen. And I think that this film's writers went into this movie uninformed about the issue that they were seemingly trying to address. And I get that feeling because of how tone deaf this film is. I don't want to leave this video on a sad or downbeat note, but I have no clue what I could say about this movie that isn't somewhat upsetting. Actually, I lied. I do have something random to say. It's literally like my whole personality after all. There is a Disney Zombies Reddit, and it is entirely filled with people talking about how Bucky is still racist. So I guess in Zombies 2, they just undo the character development that he had at the end of this film. Well, I guess to be fair, he never did get unracist racist, he just went to go dance with the zombies. He never really once showed that he actually liked them in the slightest. But that entire subreddit is maybe like 75% Bucky hate posts, as it should be. Anyway, join us next month where I will watch Sharkboy and Lava Girl, and I will complain about a kids movie in 2005 having bad CGI. Follow me on my socials, link in description, because big number make brain happy, and I will see you guys when I see you. I was going to say I'll see you next week, but I just may not want to upload next week, so we'll see what happens. It's because I'm lazy.